President Biden has accused the Russian government of genocide for its actions in Ukraine, where in 2 years it has killed as many civilians as Israel has killed in 1 month in the Gaza Strip. So how do you account for that disparity where you're assisting one country and accusing the other of genocide when the country you're assisting has systematically killed so many more people in 1 month?
Those circumstances are totally and completely not the same, and to make a comparison like that, candidly, is incredibly inappropriate.
The Israeli society had surrounded itself with shields, with walls, not only physical walls, but also mental walls. I don't want to get into it because it's another lecture, but I'll just give the 3 principles which enable us Israelis to live so easily with this brutal reality. A, most of the Israelis, if not all of them, deeply believe that we are the chosen people. And if we are the chosen people, we have the right to do whatever we want. B, there were more brutal occupations in history. There were even longer occupations in history, even though the Israeli occupation gets to quite a nice record. But there was never in history an occupation in which the occupier presented himself as the victim. Not only the victim, the only victim around. This also enables any Israeli to live in peace because we are the victims. The other day, Professor Falk spoke about this dual strategy of Israel of being a victim on one hand and manipulating on the other hand. After what happened in Paris and in Copenhagen with the terror attacks, Benjamin Netanyahu came with the notion all the Jews must come to Israel. It's the safest place for the Jews in the world. It's a shelter for the Jews in the world. Which is wrong, because Israel is today the most dangerous place on earth for Jews, but let's put it aside. It was only 24 hours later when he said Israel is an existential threat under the Iranian bomb. And I asked myself, how can you dare call Jews to come and to join this suicidal project when the Iranians are going to bomb us? But in Israel, everything goes, and both declarations were accepted as the only truth. And here I get to the third set of values which enable us Israelis to live in peace with the occupation. And this is maybe the most crucial one and the worst one. We say victimization, we say chosen people. When I say victimization, it goes without saying we have to mention the Holocaust and the unforgettable Mrs. Golda Meir that the American jury had exported to Israel. She said once, this unforgettable woman, that after the Holocaust, the Jews have the right to do whatever they want. But the third set of values is the most dangerous one, and this is the systematic dehumanization of the Palestinians, which enable us Israelis to live in peace with everything, because if they are not human beings like us, then there is not really a question of human rights. And if you scratch under the skin of almost every Israeli, you will find it there. Almost no one will treat the Palestinians as equal human beings like us. I once wrote that we treat the Palestinians like animals, and I got so many protest letters from animal rights organizations. Rightly so. But by the end of the day, how many Israelis did ever try for a moment to put themselves in the place of the Palestinians for a moment, for one day? And I want to give you 2 examples which will demonstrate it. Many years ago, I interviewed then candidate for Prime Minister, Ehud Barak. And I asked him a question which I try to ask in any occasion. Mr. Barak, what would have happened if you would have been born Palestinian? And Barak gave me then the only honest answer he could give me. He said I would have joined a terror organization. What else would have he done? Would he become a poet? He doesn't know to write poems. Would he become a pianist? He's quite a bad pianist, and I doubt if he would have become a collaborator, because he is a fighter. And it became a scandal, because how can you dare to put Ehud Barak to think what would have happened if he would have become a Palestinian? And the second incident, briefly, Second Intifada, the city of Jenin, the most closed city in the West Bank, real total siege. I go out from Jenin, I come to the checkpoint, a Palestinian ambulance is parking there with the red lights. I stand after him, no cars can get out of Jenin in those days, no cars can get in, and I wait. The soldiers are playing backgammon in the tent. Usually I know myself, it's better that I don't get into confrontation with the soldiers because it always ends up very badly. So I stayed in the car. But after 40 minutes, I couldn't take it. And I went out to the car, from the car. I went first to the Palestinian ambulance driver and I asked him, what's going on? He told me that's the routine. They let me wait 1 hour until they come and check the ambulance. And I couldn't take it anymore. And I went to the soldiers. It became a confrontation. But the question that I asked them, which really brought them to direct their weapons toward me, was one. What would have happened if your father would have been lying in this ambulance? This freaked them out. They lost control. How can I dare to compare between their father and the Palestinian in the ambulance? And this set of beliefs that they are not human beings like us enable us, Israelis, to live in so much peace with those crimes, ongoing crime for so many years, with losing any kind of humanity, values. I heard today people talk about Jewish values. I must be frank with you, I don't know what are Jewish values. I know what are universal values. Let's not get into it, really.
You want my opinion?
Yes.
Condemning Hamas or condemning Israel?
Yes.
Completely useless. Completely useless.
Why?
I condemn Hamas, you condemn Israel, interview is over. What happened? Nothing. It is just checkpoint, like morality checkpoint. Explanation. Now, hate. And again, this is another way why this has been magnified in the media so much. What does the Western audience see? They see people rejoicing for the death of innocent civilians in Israel. This is what have the Arabs seen for years on the Arab world. For example, if you look up Sidrot cinema, this is in 2014 when Israel was bombing Gaza as usual, and the Israelis in the Sidrot, the kibbutz or the settlement, they went on a hill and they had popcorn and they had drinks and they were like watching the show and they were cheering with every rocket coming down. This is what we see. Western people didn't see that back. It is not right. But this is what hate does. It escalates. It feeds each other. Radicalism feeds it. It is terrible, and it is just like a vicious circle. So fast forward 19th century. There was like the Eastern Jew in Ukraine and Russia, and there was the Western Jews in Europe. Those people in the East, the Eastern Jews, had to immigrate because there were pogroms and they were like, kicked out. And at a certain point, the people in the West, especially in England, it's like, there are too many Jews. We need a solution. A solution for what? For the Jewish problem. So it's like we need to get rid of them. And eventually, they said, all right, let's do Palestine. So they went to Palestine in 1914. There was 700,000 people living in Palestine, 3% were Jewish. 1917, Balfour Declaration. Arthur Balfour, he called the Jewish people in England that they are alien and hostile race. And the thing is, the only Jewish member of the parliament, of the English parliament, Lord Montagu, he objects, like, these are British citizens, we should not kick them out. So they pushed them, but it was not going fast enough. Came the Nazis. And then it was not about the solution anymore. It was the end losing, the final solution by Hitler, because he needed an answer for the Jewish question, die Judefrage. And then, as you see, the Holocaust happened, the most orchestrated, industrialized, horrible genocide in our modern time. 6 million Jews died. So it accelerated, and they went. First of all, they left Eastern Europe, and they went to West Europe, and they went to America, and they were turned down, and they were pushed towards Palestine. So by 1948, right before the declaration of the State of Israel, there were 2 million people living there. Only 30% of them was Jews. So the whole idea of like a land without a people to a people without a land was a marketing thing. They were already Palestinians. So suddenly, from our perspective, the Jewish problem is not a Jewish problem, is not a Middle Eastern problem, is not an Arab problem, it is a European problem. So when you see all of that, and you see that suddenly, overnight, 1948, there were 1.5 million Palestinians, half of them, 3/4 of them were overnight pushed into refugees.
Yeah.
And this is why it's called the Nakba, the catastrophe. So now we have all of this building up into the minds, and suddenly this was like a conflict, a hate, a problem that we didn't have to do anything with. This was basically pushed on us by the Europeans. I mean, there are 2.2 million people living in Gaza. There are 3.5 million people living in the West Bank. There is 350,000 people living in East Jerusalem, and there is like 6 or 7 million people living outside. Those people, the Palestinians that were pushed out, they do not have the right to go back. Right now, if you meet Palestinians, you'll see them wearing a necklace with a key. That key is their house that they were kicked out from in Jaffa and Haifa. You know, like my wife's family comes from Ramla, which is 50 miles from Gaza. And according to the law, those people have absolutely no right to go back. Even if you are a Palestinian with an American passport, they give you hell in order to go in. And yet, a Jewish person born anywhere in the world, born in Poland, born in Ukraine, no question asked, he can jump on a plane, land in Israel, and get the Israeli citizen and take a house that most probably belonged to a Palestinian. So, put yourself in the Arab side. At 1948, you constituted 70% of the population. Suddenly, the UN is giving you 48% of the land. And this is a very important question because in the mind of the Western audience, they always thought of the Palestinian resistance or the Palestinian side as like Islamic, as militant. No. As a matter of fact, some of the early suicide bombers were female Christian Palestinians.
Well, okay, if you feel that strongly, why aren't you taking in any Palestinians? Why is Egypt not taking Palestinians? Why does the Arab world want to constantly attack Israel without actually offering any place to go for the Palestinians? And what do you say to that?
That is exactly what Israel wants. And that is exactly what might actually starts Third World III. This is the war solution. These are Palestinians. These are their lands. And then suddenly take them. Why? So they've been basically kicked around from their homes. And now another country should take them? You see what will happen? Imagine this. Now, and because Israeli official has been talking openly about this. It's like, why don't they just go in Sinai? Why they go? You know what will happen? Those people are going to be pushed in Sinai. And with any population, 2 million people that are living in refugee camp, what do you think will happen? Unrest, chaos. And then after a few years, the Western media will come with their cameras like, oh, look at those Arabs. Oh, they're killing each other. Oh, Israel is good that they got rid of them. And then they will go to the West Bank. And suddenly those 3.5 million people push into Jordan. The whole idea, why does Jordan take them? Why does Egypt take them? The same question. Europe has 44 countries. Why don't they take Israel? America has 50 states. Why don't they give them Florida? I mean, we seem to complain about Florida the whole time. Why don't they just like give Israel? The whole idea was like, oh, you're Arabs, you're all the same. No.
It's not, in his eyes, it wasn't eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It was this group of terrorists did this, and we are now going to rid the world of these terrorists.
And this is very important to look at things in context. When you see how Israelis talk inside their community. There was a very famous post by Uriel Eritzol. He is the speechwriter of Netanyahu. He said, what is so horrific about understanding that the whole Palestinian people are our enemies? All of them are enemy combatants. We should kill them, kill their mother. destroy their homes, the homes that they raised those snakes, so no snakes will be raised in this house anymore. And this was reposted by Ali Chaket, which is the Minister of, wait for it, Justice. It's not about Hamas anymore. It is not about Hamas. They can tell you it's about Hamas, but it's not about Hamas. It is basically, they have said it many times, Pierce. This is a way to kind of push them into Sinai. This is not about eradicating Hamas. This ship has sailed. I am sorry, but like anybody who still believes that this is about Hamas is stupid.
Utterly horrific.
Okay, this comes to a very important question about credibility. Again, I'm not condoning what happened in October, but I'm not a journalist. But as a journalist, wouldn't you take anything that an authority would say with a grain of thought?
Yes.
Especially if this authority have a long history of lying. And I'm just going to give a few examples. 1996, they bombed Kana. It's a refugee camp. They killed 106 people. Despite that they knew it's a refugee camp. They said, oh, maybe it's a one-time off. 2006, they bombed Kana again. 2014, they killed 2 teenagers at a checkpoint. They denied, as usual, but CNN was there. So they said, we have to say it. 2018, they killed a medic, a Palestinian medic, and they fabricated a video showing that it's someone else, that he was a human shield. And then can I just like finish?
Yeah, but I do want to respond.
And then 2010, they killed Ahmed Oraikat, denied it, then said it's okay, it's us. 2021, they bombed the media office in Hamas. It's not us, but no, I'm sorry. And then 11th May 2022, Shireen Abu Akleh, a reporter, your colleague, she's Palestinian, American citizen, she was shot in the head. And they provided forensic evidence and even a doctor's video that it was not them, it was Islamic Jihad. How can I expect to believe this regime, especially if the president of Israel comes down with this ridiculous thing? Have you seen that? No. He said, okay. This was reported by Sky News, and it was the funniest thing I've seen so much. This was a Colin Powell moment, but like the cheap edition. Mr. Herzog said, like Isaac Herzog, it's like, we have found evidence on one of the terrorists, a manual to create chemical bombs. And then he showed this. And he showed, I just want to say, why would a foot soldier go into enemy with like a manual to chemical bombing? It's like, is that BYOB, bring your own beer, bomb? It's crazy. And what he like have like local ingredients?
A dinâmica do sionismo é muito parecida do bolsonarismo, né? A mesma linguagem, o mesmo caráter pérfido no trato da coisa pública, a mesma arrogância de que podem intimidar quem deles diverge. O sionismo, ele é uma doutrina supremacista, uma doutrina racista, muito semelhante àquela que guiava a África do Sul no período do apartheid. Muito semelhante. Até mais intensa e sofisticada. É a terra prometida, a terra bíblica de Israel, para um povo eleito. Quem é o povo eleito? Os judeus. Então, Israel está estruturado como um estado de supremacia racial. E as doutrinas marcadas pelo supremacismo, elas são normalmente muito violentas e muito arrogantes, porque quando você se considera pela sua essência, pela forma como você nasceu, e não pelo que você adquiriu de conhecimento na vida, mas pela forma como você nasceu, pelo berço de onde você veio, você se considera superior aos demais, isso é alimentador de uma arrogância brutal. A gente via entre os escravocratas aqui no Brasil, assim a gente vê nos sionistas, assim a gente vê nos africanos, né? A arrogância, a violência. E é isso que está em curso. E aí, quando aparece alguém de origem judaica, como é o meu caso, que confronta o discurso do sionismo, para eles é uma traição máxima. Porque eles buscam vender a ideia de que judaísmo é igual a sionismo, quando isso é uma grande mentira. O sionismo é apenas uma corrente político-ideológica, hoje majoritária, mas apenas uma corrente político-ideológica do judaísmo, uma corrente racista, colonial, que foi combatida por setores da coletividade judaica mundial desde o seu início. Os judeus comunistas do século XX combateram o sionismo. Eu venho de uma família que tem uma longa história vinculada ao movimento operário, ao movimento socialista, ao movimento comunista, e é uma família de origem judaica, de 3 gerações, agora 4 com os filhos, né? Daqui a pouco vem a 5ª geração, que a gente vai ficando velho ainda. Então, são 4 gerações de luta contra o sionismo, porque o sionismo é uma das mais perversas doutrinas racistas do nosso tempo, porque ele é muito sofisticada. Ela tem uma espécie de aceitação social, porque o racismo não tem aceitação social hoje. Ele tem que se encobrir, não é? O sionismo é uma teoria, é uma doutrina racista.
Creados por Dios para servir a los judíos. Todos los no judíos que tú ves alrededor del mundo, miles de millones de personas, solo existen para el beneficio de los judíos. Y nosotros aún no lo vemos, no sabemos exactamente si será así, aún estamos en el exilio. Así que todavía no nos sirven completamente, solo parcialmente. Cada uno de nosotros tendrá, cuando llegue el Mesías, cada uno de nosotros tendrá, ¿cuántos? Miles, cientos, 2.800 esclavos. Mientras tanto el Mesías no está aquí, ¿cómo nos sirven a nosotros ahora? Construyen coches para nosotros, apartamentos, edificios, hacen de todo, lo construyen para nosotros, sirven a los judíos, pero también hay judíos que lo hacen.
Déjame que te pregunte, ¿crees que los no judíos deberán ser esclavos de los judíos? Creo que eso es parte de la Torá.
Creo que un judío es un poco más...
Quiero decir, probablemente tendría una prioridad mucho mayor para mí ayudar a los judíos que a los no judíos.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Porque un judío es mi hermano.
La cifra exacta de esclavos por cada judío se supone que serán 800 esclavos o más.
Los primeros 3, 4 meses fui un asesino. ¿Qué quiere decir? No tomaba prisioneros. Durante la batalla, si veía a alguien levantando los brazos o algo así, no los apresaba. Me impactó mucho. Hasta el punto que no podía pasar los días con normalidad. Si hubiera entrado en una escuela, hubiera visto todos los alumnos de un aula con sus brazos levantados. Entonces, en el mismo momento, los hubiera arrasado a todos. ¿Cuántas personas se mataron así? No los conté, les juro por mi vida que no las conté. Tenía una ametralladora con 250 balas. Y yo disparaba a todo el mundo. No sabría decirte...
Los acontecimientos en Tantura se volvieron locos. Fue algo terrible. Tantura era un pueblo rico. Y tenían hermosas casas. Vivían como los europeos, ¿sabes? Y las mujeres también estaban vestidas y hermosas. Y realmente había un pueblo allí. Uno de los soldados nos trajo a una muchacha de 16 años. ¿Entiendes? Pero lo que pasó estuvo muy feo. Había un soldado con nosotros que murió, que era brutal. Tomaron a los palestinos, los encerraron en una granja y los asesinaron a todos. Ellos los reunieron en algo parecido a una jaula, en los corrales de la granja, y pusieron alambre de espino alrededor de la jaula para que nadie escapara. Ellos reunieron a todos los hombres palestinos, los sentaron a todos en el suelo, y uno de los soldados tomó un subfusil y los acribilló a todos, descargó todo el cargador. Aunque nosotros no éramos así, solo fue un soldado diferente e inusual. Y silenciaron todo lo que hicieron. Hubo soldados que tomaron lanzallamas y arrasaron todas las aldeas y los quemaron a todos. Era algo horrible y está prohibido contarlo. Así que no voy a hablar más de ello, porque podría haber un gran escándalo. Así que no quiero hablar de eso.
no hay una crisis humanitaria en el sur de la Franja de Gaza.
Pero si acabamos de hablar con Médicos
momento...
Sin Fronteras y nos han dicho que la gente de los hospitales tienen más de 13.000 heridos y que no dan abasto y tienen solo 3.500 camas. Si nos acaban de decir que hay una crisis humanitaria de primerísimo orden, las organizaciones humanitarias que están ahí.
En el sur de la Franja de Gaza hay suficiente comida, hay suficiente agua.
Nos miente Médicos Sin Fronteras también. El otro día nos mentía Save the Children, hoy nos miente Médicos Sin Fronteras. Nos miente todo el mundo menos Israel. Me encantaría creerte, Ronnie. Me encantaría creerte, pero nos llega toda la película es contraria. Estamos viendo imágenes de un bombardeo en el sur, en Rafah, donde la gente le habéis dicho que se vaya. Gente, civiles, niños, gente que le habéis dicho que ahí estarían seguros y no lo están. Y no lo están.
Cuando la gente se va, también el terrorista pasa por allí. Y el terrorista no tiene ningún tipo de impunidad.
Pero no eso. ¿Cuántos civiles vale cada terrorista? ¿Cuántos civiles? ¿Cuántos civiles?
Mirá, la verdad es que es un cálculo que no te lo puedo comentar ahora, depende.
Tú puedes bombardear un campo de refugiados como acaba de ocurrir ahora con 46.000 personas. ¿Cuántos terroristas te valen esa cantidad de gente para bombardearlos? O sea, ¿cuántos terroristas tiene que haber para que se justifique que 46.000 personas reciban bombas? Creo, sinceramente, que uno de los servicios secretos más importantes y más reconocidos del mundo, como es el Mossad, les sobran medios para no tener que perpetrar estos bombardeos sobre población civil que no tiene ninguna culpa de que estén gestionados o lo que tú quieras, o rodeados por terroristas. Esa gente, esos niños, no son terroristas. Esas víctimas no merecen. Y ustedes, vosotros, como nación de pleno derecho y con un ejército de los más avanzados del planeta, deberíais ser mucho más selectivos, y no os lo he dicho yo, os lo dice Naciones Unidas.
Gracias por tu optimismo, Ricto.
Lo que a mí me sorprende es que una nación, una democracia, esté utilizando con el argumento de matar terroristas, esté matando también civiles, con esta desproporción. 46.000 civiles en un campo de refugiados. Ronnie, no nos vamos a entender. Lo siento.
Porque no estamos arrasando, estamos haciendo todo lo que está dentro de nuestras posibilidades.
Estamos viendo las imágenes, Ronnie, es que no puedes ir contra la realidad.
En la Franja de Gaza.
No puedes ir contra la realidad.
في الجنة يا حبيبي، في الجنة. سبقت على الجنة. سبقت على الجنة يا حبيبي.
أطفال يكتبون أسماءهم على أجسادهم لكي يتم التعرف على جثامينهم. والدة الأطفال الثلاثة الذين دفنوا تحت الركام تقول لأطفالها: خلوني أشوفكم ولو الرحمة للشهداء والخزي والعار.
For 35 years, that homeland has been dominated by Israel. In 1987, the Palestinians rose up in what they call intifada. History will surely call it a war of national liberation. They fought mainly with slingshots against tanks and planes, and they were put down with this kind of brutality. Israeli soldiers deliberately breaking the bones of prisoners. Some of the soldiers later insisted they were carrying out official Israeli policy. 2 years ago, the Palestinians rose up a second time. This was hardly surprising. During curfews, people live under a form of house arrest. Without notice, they can be locked inside their homes. Their ordinary lives are a maze of controls, roadblocks, checkpoints. This is how I remembered apartheid South Africa. The hidden effect is the same: humiliation and anger and death.
This was in the year of 2009. We found something which is bigger, which is called Tamar. And about a year and a half later, we found something which is much, much bigger, which is called Leviathan, that has been the largest of its kind over the past decade. Well, the Gaza Marine, I think the problem over there was that once natural gas is produced and sold, to whom is the money going to go? We have been always prepared to see that this is developed on a condition that you could make sure that the income will not find itself in the hands of terror organizations. Israel is like perhaps a huge Air Force carrier that the United States, I mean the largest one the United States has, and the safest one, that saves the United States to the need to deploy a whole fleet in the eastern basin of the Mediterranean. Now we are doing that because of our own interests, and we feel that we share the same values of the free world. We have similar interests.
Se quiser, você põe chocolate, você põe laranja, põe o gosto que você quiser. Mas o bolo base é 3 chávenas de farinha de trigo, 2 chávenas de açúcar refinado, 4 ovos, 1 colher de bicarbonato e 4 colheres bem cheia de margarina ou manteiga de leite e 1 chávena de leite. Aí o ovo tem que ser, você separa a gema da clara, bate a clara e depois você põe. Aí é isso.
Mistura a margarina com a gema do ovo, né?
Primeiro você bate a margarina com a gema do ovo e o açúcar, até ficar branco, tanto que você bateu.
E aí mistura os outros ingredientes.
Os outros ingredientes. E por último, na hora de levar no forno um pouquinho, antes você põe a clara do ovo, bem leve.
Então ele fica macio e gostoso. O tempero coloca o que quiser, né? Chocolate, laranja, casca de limão.
Se você quiser.
Então é isso, gente. É assim que você faz. Coco, coco fica bom. Para quem não sabe, é assim que se faz bolo. Essa é a receita, que não é considerado nada muito ofensivo, né? Apesar de, sei lá. Os iemenitas, como vocês viram, os únicos que parecem dispostos, né, a ajudar nessa grande panificadora do mundo. O restante dos árabes está num silêncio, ou até os que estão falantes, uma inação constrangedora. Vamos esperar a Argélia, né? Qual que é o prato típico de lá? É aquele negócio que eles comem no Marrocos, e eles fazem no Nordeste também. Cuscuz. Cuscuz que chama, né? Quem sabe?
Lo que sucede en Palestina. Existe un bloqueo mediático en los medios masivos de comunicación Parte de ello se debe al dominio e influencia sobre las empresas de comunicación por parte de Israel y la propaganda de su movimiento supremacista, el sionismo. Esto deriva en una censura sobre las voces que pretenden comunicar objetivamente lo que sucede mediante el silenciamiento, hostigamiento o el bloqueo y cierre de los medios que informan sobre la situación. Además, se suma la dificultad material de transmitir la información por la propia situación de corte de servicios y comunicación que ha ejercido Israel sobre Gaza. Aún así, el material que llega es habitualmente censurado por las plataformas y redes sociales, principalmente a través del uso de la práctica conocida como shadow ban. Pero, ¿qué es lo que te están ocultando? Robo de bienes y tierras, desalojos forzados, millones de refugiados, un régimen segregacionista de apartheid, personas bajo detenciones ilegales sin proceso, conocidas como detenciones administrativas, y hasta niños y niñas presas y torturados, además de más de 8.000 personas asesinadas solamente durante octubre de 2023. Estas son solo algunas de las atrocidades que comete el sionismo israelí. Incluso en el último tiempo se ha instalado la falacia de que toda denuncia de los crímenes de Israel sea interpretada como una manifestación de antisemitismo, utilizando esta práctica como arma de silenciamiento. La censura ha avanzado inclusive sobre los propios israelíes, que alzan su voz en defensa de la vida y la libertad de los palestinos y en contra del terrorismo de Estado de Israel. Los palestinos necesitan que compartas y difundas esta información con tus conocidos y que exijas a tus gobiernos que condenen el accionar genocida de Israel y se detenga la matanza sobre Gaza.
Vai explicar lá como é que eles descobriram o Hezbollah no Brasil e não se anteciparam ao ataque do Hamas na fronteira. É isso que eu quero saber.
Olha o passarinho cantando.
Gente, invadir terras indígenas, expulsar ou eliminar as populações e tomar toda a riqueza para si é o cerne do capitalismo. E acontece hoje em dia.
A maior crise humanitária do mundo está acontecendo neste exato momento na República Democrática do Congo e são pouquíssimas as pessoas que estão falando sobre isso. Até mesmo dentro aqui da bolha de esquerda, a galera progressista, pouca gente está falando sobre isso. São mais de 7 milhões de pessoas que perderam as suas casas, 25 milhões passam fome diariamente, 6 milhões já morreram desde que o conflito começou. A cada 1 hora, mulheres e meninas são abusadas sexualmente. Tudo isso financiado por interesses de grandes potências mundiais. E aqui nós podemos citar o financiamento de armamento militar dos Estados Unidos, França. Além dos Estados Unidos e França, nós temos também Reino Unido, temos Israel, com interesses capitalistas na República Democrática do Congo. O que tem lá que todo mundo quer? Tem ouro, diamantes, petróleo, cobalto, enfim, tem muita riqueza na República, sabe? Então, assim, o que está acontecendo é um verdadeiro genocídio, o holocausto. Eu fiz uma matéria completa no lermais.com no meu site. Dá uma lida lá para você ficar atento sobre esse assunto. Marca o perfil da galera que você segue aqui de esquerda, perfil do Lula, do Silvio, Érica Hilton. A gente precisa dar visibilidade para esse assunto. E leia lá a matéria no site.
Don't you cry? Oh, Palestine will never die. Free, free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
I can't do anything. All of this. What do you expect me to do? Fix it? I'm only 10. I can't even do anything this morning. I just want to be a doctor or anything to help my people, but I can't. I'm just a kid. I don't even know what to do. I get scared, but not really that much. I do anything for my people, but I don't know what to do. I'm just 10. I'm just 10. All of this, when I see, I literally cry every day, saying to myself, why do we deserve this? What did we do to this? My family said they just hate us. They just don't like us because we are Muslims. Why does Muslims act for you like that? We're just kids. You see all of the kids around me? They're just kids. Why wouldn't you just send a missile to them and kill them?
يعني على اساس انهم هدوا الدار يعني رح نخاف كتير. واو يعني هدوا الدار رح نخاف كتير. رح نخاف. رحياني ليه؟ اول ما اجينا من المدرسه لقينا الزرافات باب الدار قاعدين بيهدوها، ولقينا كل الناس على باب الدار. غرفتي ولا عيبي ورحوا معي ورحت خزينتي رحت تختي. بس رايحين نطلع من القدس لأنه هم قوات احتلال، عمالهم بيطلعونا من دارنا، عمالهم بيطلعونا من القدس، عمالهم بيطلعونا من فلسطين. نروح بس نبص رجلهم، لا والله فشلت عينهم كمان.
Em Mateus 19, 13, 14 e também em Marcos 10, 13 a 16 e Lucas 18, 15 a 17, consta o seguinte: depois disso, algumas pessoas levaram as suas crianças para Jesus, que colocou as mãos sobre elas e orou. Mas os discípulos repreenderam as pessoas que fizeram isso. Aí ele disse: deixem as crianças venham a mim, e não as proíbam que elas façam isso, pois o reino do céu é das pessoas que são como essas crianças. Em Lucas. Depois disso, algumas pessoas levaram suas crianças a Jesus para que ele as abençoasse. Mas os discípulos viram isso e repreenderam aquelas pessoas. Então Jesus chamou as crianças para perto de si e disse: deixem que as crianças venham a mim, e não proíbam que elas façam isso, pois o reino de Deus é das pessoas que são como essas crianças. Eu afirmo a vocês que isso é verdade. Quem não receber o reino de Deus como uma criança, nunca entrará nele. Eu fico imaginando o que acontece com quem sacrifica crianças. Ou como diz o supostamente católico Joe Biden, que é um preço a se pagar.